Hello, and welcome to the Promo Perspectives podcast, the podcast presented by Sage, dedicated to giving promotional products, suppliers, and distributors tips, tricks, and insights to help them grow their businesses. This month, we're talking about band merch. Last week, we kicked off this series with a discussion of the history of band merch, some of the stats behind the industry, and just a couple of tips about how you can break into that market. Today, we're going to start our look into the distributor perspective of the band merch market, and I'm going to share an interview that I did with Adrian and Shadow from Seven Sins Printing and Embroidery, hear all about how they came to work in this space and why they're so passionate about helping artists translate their visual identity into profitable merchandising opportunities. So without further ado, here's my interview with Adrian and Shadow from Seven Sins Printing and Embroidery.
My name is Shadow.
And my name is Adrian, and the company is Seven Sins Printing. We are a full-service garment decoration business dealing with bands, musicians, artists, or anything that pushes music culture. We started off kind of new to the scene a couple years ago, roughly 5-6 years ago, kind of making our way in. She had moved in from out of town, and I just kind of didn't know the scene existed, but I had tons of friends from high school who had joined local bands and had been playing local music, and I had got invited to one of the shows, and we just started going to little events happening at Reno's Chop Shop down in Deep Ellum and other venues like the Hulk Theater.
They introduced him to a lot of people in the scene, a lot of promoters, a lot of musicians, a lot of people that we didn't know that were in the background of doing all that, the tour hands, the merch people. And so we've immersed ourselves into this community full-heartedly.
We help them by taking their artwork, and usually it's like simple things as sizing up the artwork to accommodate the people who listen to their music specifically. A lot of the genres that we work with, they all have different preferences as to what they're selling. You have a lot of like real death metal stuff that is really massive long prints, like the one I'm currently wearing. Then you have more hardcore related bands that are going to have small center chest prints, and you up to times they go up to like 3 inches long or 3 inches wide in the center chest. And you have your like deathcore alternative bands who have just your standard. It's that 11 inch wide by like 16 inch long prints. So we first of all help them with sizing the artwork, because we kind of know what the community enjoys the most. And then it's picking out a garment type. All those genres have their own preferences. You have your, again, death metal, which loves Gildan 5000. It's a cheap, affordable, really good returns for the band. And then it's something that they're very familiar with. A lot of the bands that they had listened to growing up, a lot of their favorite bands print on those. Your hardcore bands love something like a Shaka Wear or a Beefy Haynes. And then again, your alternative bands and your deathcore-ish bands love a softer shirt. They love your district concertee. They love your soft styles. They love Bella Canvas. Each genre is looking for something very specific, and even outside of those genres, I'm sure it gets very more complex. We see a vast variety of different kind of direct styles being asked for, and especially as we're growing now and branching into more music genres, music scenes. We're getting asked to, collect wholesalers for crazy brands that we've never heard of before.
Just about the shirts either, the short.
Yeah, shorts.
Types of shirts, the tending to women as well, because there's never enough clothes for women. So there's a lot of crop tops going out. Booty shorts are a thing, but I've also seen a lot of men in the booty shorts too. So, more power to you. But basketball shorts, and then even down to the colors sometimes. Like these people want like bright, vibrant colors, or they're one colored, muted. Yeah, you could be some glow in the dark. So sparkle, we had a sparkle one time.
Yeah, vintage has been a very sought after thing, especially with streetwear being kind of a reoccurring thing. It's coming back into style again. So you have a lot of vintage muted colors being printed. But essentially we help a lot of these bands take their artwork and translate it to what we know sells well, or help them, set everything up in a way that is very familiar to that genre, especially if they've never had any experience. If they're a new band, we kind of set them on the right course, and then they start building their own identity as a band, and figure out how they want to set it, the colors they want to go for, and the aesthetic that they're looking for in the long term.
Price.
Yeah.
Price is always a big thing.
Yeah. Like she had mentioned, pricing is definitely one of the biggest things. We, because we are a company that's tailored to musicians and that specific genre of, artists and all, or that specific niche of artists and, anything like that, we have to make sure we're priced first. It's one of our biggest things. We have to separate ourselves from all of our competitors. And because we know that this is what we're passionate about, because we're happy to come into work every day, we price ourselves accordingly to get as much work, to work with as many bands as possible every year. That is probably the biggest one is again, pricing, because these people are, again, small bands, 16, 15, 17-year-olds up to 30, 40-year-olds.
Communication is second.
Yeah.
Communication. I say communication because nobody's going to answer a text message at 3 a.m. for a rush order and some merch.
The one I'm wearing right now was a 3 a.m. Text message, and they had asked to do a rush delivery within like a 12, 13-hour rush turnaround time, and
I'm wearing a rush order shirt too.
That was a rush order shirt, and we managed to do those orders within about 12, 13 hours. Once we got into the shop, shipped them out, and they arrived perfectly on time the next day. But yeah, communication is, again, a big one too for us.
There's always a daddy in the group. There's always a dad, mother hen, per se. So that one is the one who's gathering their artworks, who's in charge of the merch. They're always in charge of the merch, and not just obtaining the merch, but taking that merch home with them, lugging it to shows, setting it up at a show, selling it, making sure that their profits are going back to the band. So we do a lot of conversating with those mother hens, and it's like, hold on, give me a second, I got to talk to the band. Hold on, give me a second, I got to talk to the band.
The big thing is that, I want to say it's the unpredictability of tour life as a band. You don't know when you go to a new state, a new venue. You don't know how good your sales are going to be. You kind of expect a certain level of sales.
People are going to leave you.
You end up, usually more times than not, you end up, exceeding those expectations as a band that you've set for yourself. And we've seen it time and time again, especially like bands like this one. We worked with like Killing Flesh and a couple other ones who, when they were on this growth pattern on their initial start, they had gone on tour with some pretty big bands, and they had said, you know what, we're probably going to do like 150 shirts. Come to find out, they sold 150 shirts in their first day, and it happens very repeatedly. It's the unpredictability of how people perceive the bands and how much demand there is for the band's merchandise. And these bands, they try their best. They are limited in budget when it comes to going on tour, so they usually can only get what they can afford, and then as soon as they reach a point of making their returns, they try to re-up on merch partway through the tour.
Not even that, but we've spoken to like a mother guru. She's done all her research on, because her husband's in a band. So she's done all her research on where certain sizes sell the most. So she knows that her husband's band is going to the West Coast, that she's going to need way more larges than they would normally take, twice as many larges. Cut the smalls, no smalls. You come to Texas, it's all 2Xs and 3Xs, and they're big boy sizes and stuff. So knowing it's just a learning curve. It's a constant learning curve, not just with us, but with the bands, and trying to figure out what merch is going to sell better, where their rips come from, if they're doing a rip on a cartoon or something, if it's their album artwork, what do the people want, per se. And colors is a big thing. As far as Adrian, he does all of his separations on his own. We do a lot of Pantone color matching too. That's special colors. That is a color specially made for what they want. And then the feel, we don't really do any water-based printing or anything right now, but we do a lot of the soft touch feel artwork. And then a lot of them are the artists, like being able to have a band that you work with, but then knowing that they work with a really cool, famous artist, and that artist is in your email sending you links to drop files and stuff like that. That's always cool to be able to open up. Like, hey, did you see that John Zig folder again? Like, that's always cool.
It's like she said with the artist. You know, if you're talking about from an artist as in person generating the artwork, for us specifically, at least for me specifically, since I do the screen printing side, getting that artwork that they make, it is very paramount to me to make sure that the final product looks as close as I can get it. I'm talking like 99%. I try to be as perfect as possible within the realm of realism. But to get that artwork the same way that that artist had interpreted it and when they had made it, it is a very big thing for me. And then like she had mentioned about the soft prints, we do a lot of fashion soft hand base. It turns your thick plastisol ink that everybody's kind of familiar with. It turns it into a nice, thin, almost water-based like print. It's almost a no feel. It feels beautiful. It's something.
We will have to.
It's something that people want to wear. You don't feel it on your shirt. So we try to make sure that the artist's original artwork is interpreted very well on the substrate, but also making sure that the end product for the band artist is something that their fans want to wear, that they enjoy wearing. They want to, continually push out to people.
Yeah, there's been a lot of times where we'll get somebody who's had artwork done and they'll come back to us, be like, this we got done from somewhere else, like it wasn't how we wanted, this is what it was supposed to look like, is there any way you guys can? And that goes, and Adrian will reburn a screen 4 or 5 times and mix a color 4 or 5 times and be here until 11, 12, 1 o'clock in the morning, perfecting a shirt, making sure that it's 1-to-1 with the artwork that he's gotten. So it's very dear. Like, we want to make sure that is transcending to the shirt as well as possible.
Bands are they're very specific. They more than likely, once they've generated a style that they want to go for, they know the aesthetic they're looking for, they know what their merch should be. They're very quick about it. They know the artwork. They've picked the artist they want to work with. They've already commissioned some artwork. They've usually already set the logo and the artwork together. So once a band gets to a more mature point where they have these things ready, they want that ease of access. They want to be able to send a quote form or quick, 3 or 4, box prompt thing on your website, and they want to send it to you. That has the shirt breakdown, the artwork, when they need it by, and where it's shipping to. They want it real fast, convenience. Most of my email chains for bands are, and for anybody within the screen printing or garment decoration industry, will probably find it crazy, but a lot of our email chains are 5-6 emails. From the time that they put in the initial quote to the time that we complete the order, it's 5-6 emails back and forth, and we're, done the order, it's been shipped out. Anybody else in our short time, our first year and a half doing stuff for churches and schools, when we were kind of more general printers, we were looking at like 80, 90, 100 something email chains back and forth. This is consistently, almost every job was like this, and we were re-quoting 4, 5, 6 times. It was just a headache, and we kind of realized very early on, bands, artists, musicians, they love simplicity. They want it very quick. They usually know what they want, and when they are kind of on the edge about that is where we go to the education route, showing them and teaching them kind of the process, setting expectations realistically and for their orders. Convenience also kind of is another big thing too. Again, why the reason we do, traveling, to drop off merch, or we do really quick turnaround times the way we do, as often as we do, is again because of convenience. We do it, mainly because we have a pretty small 2-person business, and we have the ability to do it. I know it's in the long term, probably not a scalable model to constantly be doing as many brush orders as we are doing, the way we're doing them, but it builds a really strong community for us. These bands, they talk all the time with people. They're on tour
Word of mouth.
100 days out of the year. So having some kind of merch that you expedited to them, you printed overnight, they're going to tell 100 people about that. In the next month or two, we'll get 7, 8, 9 new orders just from the people they've mentioned. We may even snag one big band that, brings the...
Especially being able to come to us with like a super offensive artwork and telling us that they weren't able to get this printed at somewhere else, or even an actual screen printer that was at a shop and saying, hey, my job won't screen print this because it is too offensive. Can you guys do it?
I would say simplify your process down, and not so simple where it's just send an email and type a message. You want to get as much information as quick as possible. So, like our personal quote form, it's all the base questions like a musician would be answering, sizes they want, the breakdown, the quantity.
Did you hear about us?
Yeah, how did you hear about us? All these little things are very, very big when it comes to building out a quote form for musicians. So don't oversimplify, keep it simple. Get all the information so that once they send in a quote form, you can send them a quote almost instantly. Gather all your information. Then past that, do remember that musicians, funds are kind of hard to come by. I would say just always stick to your pricing. Your pricing is your price for a reason. We run the prices we do because it works for us. We financially are still able to grow on the prices that we have. Somebody with a lot more overhead probably wouldn't be able to do the prices we do. So just remember, your price is your price as much as you want to get into the music industry. Just stay firm on that, and you'll find your group of musicians who want to work with you. As long as your product is good, they'll keep coming. You'll keep growing. It's really just putting yourself out there. Another big thing is social media marketing. Add a bunch of, if you use your personal Facebook, if you're a small business, use your personal Facebook or Instagram for reaching out to bands and getting new leads. Add bands, add musicians, and then go down the rabbit hole, add a band, see who that band follows, and add all those bands, and it just keeps scaling and scaling. And next thing you know, you have a bunch of new clientele that you originally didn't have. You have new quotes coming in all the time that you really originally didn't have. It's a long process, but put in the legwork. And
yeah, I guess I would just say communicate, because a lot of businesses, a lot of people that you have to talk to, customer service or whatever. We try. Like I said, it's just me and him in the shop. So communicate with your people, make sure that they're good, follow up with them and stuff like that. Building that relationship with your client is so important to me, like to us, but to me, like having that relationship, being able to see them later on and have a conversation with them outside of our work stuff. And then if there's ever a job you feel like you cannot do, please contract that out. If there's something you truly feel like you cannot accomplish or you cannot do, find somebody who can help you, message that guy because he will do it. There is always somebody there who's willing to help you, especially in the screen printing merchandise community. There's always somebody willing to teach you. And YouTube University, you can find out anything you need to learn on YouTube. So, yeah.
We try our best with a lot of the bands, a lot of the promoters, a lot of the people who are within the music scene. We try to give back by, constantly sharing, communicating with these people, not just treating them as, clients, treating them as friends and family. Just because, we don't hang out all the time doesn't mean that we are committed to your success, committed to your, seeing you happy, seeing your band thrive, seeing you as a fan having a good time at a show. We do as much as we can within the, a lot of time that we have, because we are pretty busy here most time around the year. And we, do our best to potentially give back in any way possible. We help out with, one-offs, questions, building out merch packages throughout the years, and trying to put on shows. Once every December, we try to put on one show for the local community here, specifically in Texas. And we, try to give back by bringing some really, really big bands within the undergrad community to the region near us.
That also works when we are introduced to, like I said, that network, the community, because these people have day jobs. And so their day jobs are working for fundraisers and nonprofit and stuff. So we've been blessed to work with Foundation 45. They recently changed their name
to Amplified Minds.
And we worked with them a couple of years ago, and we're talking about working with them again. A lot of shelters. We've worked with the Women's View Shelter, and then as well as churches. So there is a church or two in there. But like I said, these people are part of the community, our underground community. They all have day jobs. They all have lives. They all have things that they're doing outside of this as well. So like I said, we treat them as our family, or their friends, and whatever they need help with, whatever they're, aspiring to do, that's how we want to help them as well. We actually were at a Walmart in Garland and getting an oil change, and a woman noticed our shirt because we're always in band shirts, and she began telling us about a band back in like the 80s, 90s, and how the person had committed suicide. And eventually that led into finding out that Foundation 45 was established because of this mental health crisis that is still plaguing, everywhere. So we heard about that. They work a lot with mental health, substance abuse. They do a lot of like Narcan events and stuff like that. They host their own shows. So I don't know as currently what they're doing with Amplified Minds. I feel like they've tried to mainstream it a little bit more. Not take away from the music scene per se, but, to get the better audience for them.
I'd say you buy merch because it's kind of like almost a badge of honor. It's a way to express yourself as well. I think that's just one of the main reasons. It's something that you're into. You want to show people what you're into. It's part of your culture.
Part of that community of being able to go out and about, seeing somebody else, same kind of shirt as you, and be like, hey.
Yeah, it's a great conversation starter. It's very identity based to me, especially when I wear something that, an obscure band that only I and a handful of people would know. It's very very cool. And then again, with stuff like these band rips of like Alien and all these other rips that we do, it's cool stuff that we can also express, like we love this band, but we also love Alien, Rick and Morty and stuff, Stone Cold Steve Austin, and it's little identity things that are laced in with the bands that we love as well. I buy merch because, again, I like to showcase the bands that I listen to. I love to also support the bands that I'm working with, listening to as well.
I'm a big fan of like tour shirts, festival shirts. Feel like most anything else I can buy online. They're going to be selling it online on Bandcamp, where have you. But for the most part, if I'm going out and there's a shirt I really want, it's usually a tour shirt or a festival shirt, because there's not going to be anything like that again. So
those are really cool. Festival shirts are very unique because they're only done once. They usually don't do a reprint. You only got one if you were there. It really is like, that's definitely a badge of honor shirt.
If you bought it a few times in a festival shirt, and you're like, oh, you went to Global? Yeah, I was there. That was cool, and then just drum up a conversation with that.
It's cool sometimes when you wear a band shirt to like a show, or a festival shirt to a show, and then to know, or to strike up a conversation with somebody, and they say that, oh, I was there, but you just weren't talking. You didn't know them at that time, but to figure out that you and someone else were at the same festival 5 years ago, it was a really cool thing. And you talk about your experiences at that fest. Slam Dakota up in South Dakota. was one of our first big festivals we went to, and a lot of the people who were at that festival, we didn't actually get to know them until about 2-3 years later. And so,
We're best friends with some of those people.
yeah, and to figure out that we were all in the same place, we all had the same experiences. We all, now are friends. It's really, really cool, full circle experience.
Thanks again to Adrian and Shadow for coming on the show and sharing their story. It's great to hear from true music fans in the industry that are helping artists get their brand out there. Stay tuned and subscribe to Promo Perspectives. We've got a couple more episodes on this topic coming out, and you're not going to want to miss them. And if you want to register to join us for the next live stream, head to go.sageworld.com/podcast.